Your 20s are often described as the best years of your life, but they're also the years where a few financial mistakes can quietly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even realize what happened. Most people enter adulthood believing they have plenty of time to figure out money later, but the truth is that the financial decisions you make in your 20s have a bigger impact on your future than almost anything you do in your 30s or 40s. The good news is that you don't need to be rich to build wealth in your 20s, because what matters most isn't how much money you earn, it's the habits you build while you're still young. Today, we're going to break down the biggest financial mistakes people make in their 20s, explain why these mistakes are so damaging, and show you how avoiding just a few of them can completely change your financial future. The first and biggest mistake is believing that investing can wait because you're still young. And this is exactly why millions of people lose the greatest financial advantage they'll ever have: time. Thanks to compound growth, even small investments made in your 20s have decades to grow, meaning someone who starts investing at 22 often ends up with far more wealth than someone who starts at 35, despite investing much larger amounts. Every year you delay investing isn't just another year without returns. It's another year your future wealth loses the opportunity to multiply, and unfortunately no amount of money can ever buy back lost time. The second mistake is living entirely for today without thinking about tomorrow, because many young adults spend every paycheck on restaurants, vacations, expensive gadgets, luxury clothes, and entertainment without setting aside anything for their future. There's absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying your 20s, but when every dollar is spent on temporary pleasures instead of long-term assets, those exciting moments eventually disappear while the financial consequences remain. The third mistake is financing a lifestyle you haven't actually earned yet, because many people take out expensive car loans, finance luxury electronics, or use credit cards to create the appearance of success long before they've built real financial stability. Social media has made this problem even worse by convincing young adults that success is measured by what they own instead of what they actually have invested, leading many people into years of unnecessary debt just to impress strangers online. Real wealth rarely looks glamorous in the beginning because financially successful people often spend their 20s buying investments instead of status symbols, understanding that temporary sacrifices today create permanent freedom later. The fourth mistake is ignoring credit card debt, because many young adults see minimum monthly payments as manageable without realizing how quickly high-interest debt grows over time. A few $1,000s of credit card debt may not seem like a major problem today, but if it continues growing through interest, it can quietly delay home ownership, investing, retirement savings, and countless financial opportunities for years. The fifth mistake is never creating a budget, because many people believe budgeting is only necessary for families or people struggling financially, when in reality it's one of the most powerful tools for anyone who wants to build wealth. Without a budget, money naturally disappears through impulse purchases, subscriptions, online shopping, food delivery, and countless small expenses that feel insignificant individually but become enormous over the course of a year. Financially successful people don't budget because they're poor, they budget because they understand that every dollar should have a purpose before it's spent, ensuring their money supports their goals instead of simply disappearing. Another common mistake is constantly upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increases, because each raise becomes an excuse for a nicer apartment, a newer car, more expensive vacations, and bigger monthly bills instead of larger investments. This habit, known as lifestyle inflation, traps millions of young professionals in a cycle where their salary keeps increasing but their financial situation never actually improves because every extra dollar is immediately spent. Perhaps the saddest part is that many people don't even realize they're making these mistakes until they reach their 30s and wonder why they still have so little savings despite working hard for nearly a decade. The reality is that your 20s aren't about proving how successful you look. They're about building the financial foundation that will determine how much freedom you'll have for the rest of your life. The sixth mistake is relying on a single source of income, because many people believe their job alone will always provide financial security. But the reality is that layoffs, economic downturns, and unexpected life events can instantly reduce or eliminate that paycheck. Your 20s are the perfect time to explore side hustles, freelance work, online businesses, digital products, investing, or any additional income stream that gives you more financial flexibility instead of depending entirely on one employer. Another costly mistake is failing to build an emergency fund because life rarely goes according to plan, and one unexpected medical bill, car repair, or job loss can force you into high-interest debt if you have no savings to rely on. Financial experts often recommend keeping at least 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in an emergency fund because that money provides peace of mind and allows you to make smart decisions instead of desperate ones during difficult times. The seventh mistake is ignoring financial education because, while most people spend years learning skills to earn money, very few spend time learning how to manage, invest, protect, and grow the money they already earn. Schools rarely teach personal finance, investing, taxes, retirement planning, or wealth building, which means many young adults enter the real world completely unprepared for the financial decisions they'll face every single month. The wealthiest people never stop learning because they understand that every book they read, every financial lesson they study, and every investing principle they master increases their ability to make smarter decisions for decades to come. The eighth mistake is trying to get rich quickly because social media constantly promotes overnight success stories, cryptocurrency millionaires, luxury lifestyles, and unrealistic investment returns that convince people wealth can be built without patience. In reality, most lasting wealth is created through consistent investing, disciplined saving, smart financial planning, and years of allowing compound growth to work quietly in the background instead of chasing risky shortcuts. Many people lose thousands of dollars chasing quick profits because they're driven by emotion rather than strategy, forgetting that slow and consistent progress almost always beats reckless decisions made in search of instant wealth. Another mistake is surrounding yourself with people who constantly encourage unnecessary spending because your financial habits are heavily influenced by the people you spend the most time with. If everyone around you believes success means expensive restaurants, luxury vacations, designer clothes, and financing everything they buy, it's incredibly difficult to build wealth because that lifestyle quickly becomes your normal. On the other hand, spending time with people who value investing, discipline, entrepreneurship, and long-term thinking naturally encourages better financial decisions that continue paying off for years. Perhaps the biggest mistake of all is believing that your 20s don't matter financially because you're still young, when in reality these years are your greatest opportunity to build a foundation that becomes almost impossible to recreate later in life. Every dollar invested, every debt avoided, every smart financial decision, and every positive habit you develop during this decade has decades to compound, making your 20s one of the most valuable financial opportunities you'll ever receive. Imagine reaching your 30s with no consumer debt, a growing investment portfolio, multiple income streams, excellent financial habits, and the confidence that comes from knowing your money is working for you instead of against you. Now imagine the opposite entering your 30s burdened by debt, living paycheck to paycheck, with little savings and no investments after spending an entire decade earning money without building wealth. The difference between those two futures isn't luck, family background, or earning a six-figure salary. It's the small financial decisions you make every single day starting right now. Remember, your 20s are not the decade to impress people with what you own. They're the decade to quietly build assets, develop discipline, and create the financial freedom that will give you choices for the rest of your life.